Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today we're going to take a look at OpenSuse Tumbleweed. Yes, and beyond that, I'm going to be checking out the Xfce version. What? Really? Yes, that's right, Xfce. And you might be thinking, but Jack, like KDE and Tumbleweed, OpenSuse were made for each other. It's the perfect KDE combo with a distro. And you're right, it is. But, you know, looking around the net, it seems like everybody that talks about OpenSuse has something to say about KDE or Gnome, but I've never really ever seen anything about Xfce. And Xfce is one of their official spins. And so I thought I would take a look at it and check it out. So I'm out at the OpenSuse website right now. And if I just go ahead and hit the download here, we can see that we have our different images, and it's also available in a 32-bit version. So that is super cool. And they even have the JOS or JE, not really sure how you pronounce that, in their alternative downloads. Now in the alternative downloads, you can get live images, so you can put it on a CD and then try it out live. And also you got these different virtual images, which is really cool. So you can get a KVM or a Hyper-V, VMware, all pre-done for you. And then you can just jump right into a OpenSuse environment. So I really like that. That is really excellent. Also, you want to keep in mind on the live CDs here, like the Gnome, KDE, Xfce, these really aren't intended for an install. And I've actually tried that before in the past, tried to do an install from a live CD, and it really didn't come out that well. So somewhere on the website, I think they do also mention that right here, they should not be used to install or upgrade Tumbleweed. Please use the media instead. And that is actually true. So even though there's an installer on the desktop in the live version, try to resist the temptation and use the actual media instead. Just a little advice there. But again, these are available in 32-bit desktop as well. So you won't be left out if you have a 32-bit machine. So excellent. I'm just gonna back up here, or just jump out of this and back to our area. And so what I'm gonna do is they have both an offline image, which has everything already on it, and you can burn into an ISO, or you can use the network image, which is a small image, only 163 megs, and then it just kind of pulls everything off the internet. And I think I'm going to go with that one. So I'm going to go ahead and download this guy, and then I'll meet you back after the download. Okay, here we are. We're booting into our image here, our network image. And of course, that was a very quick download because it was only 168 megs in size. And so first it's asking me for my SSID. So I'm just going to go ahead and put all that in there. That's because I got the Wi-Fi turned on right now. Guess I should have just plugged in the wire, but oh well. Okay, and so we got that done. So all I had to do in there was put in my network ID for my Wi-Fi and then password. And if you don't know your network ID, you could probably see it on your iPhone or your smartphone. And then just look at network settings or on your PC, be able to find that. And if you don't know your password, then just use a wire. Okay, so now it's kind of booting up the media here. So this would just take a minute to get into the system here. And now it's percolating, and we're in our installer. Nice. So it starts out looking at the network configuration, and now it's kind of doing an update here. And just take a second here while we initialize our network settings. Okay, so it just starts out here with a license agreement, and I'm just going to do a quick keyboard test just to verify my keyboard is okay. And it is, so we're good there. And there's our license agreement. Okay, so now it's going to go ahead and probe our hardware and just kind of see what we got. And asking to enable online repository. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit yes. And as you've noticed, we're not in a live environment, but we actually booted right into this installer from the image. Okay, all right, here's where we can choose a desktop. And as you can see, the main choices here are KDE Plasma, Gnome, and Xfce, plus a generic desktop, a server setup, or a transactional server. So I'm going to go ahead and just go with the desktop with Xfce, and we'll check this out. Actually, don't think I've ever run Xfce on OpenSuse before. I have on Fedora, and I thought it was actually less than great. Wasn't real impressed with it. It wasn't awful, but I just thought it could have been better. So I'm going to see how OpenSuse stacks up on this. It could be the same deal. I guess we'll find out. Okay, it's going ahead and synchronizing our time server now. So it's already set to the Eastern time zone, and I think I'm good with that. So we'll go ahead and click next. And let's go ahead and do a username here. And we'll go with the old standby Toadwick and then put in a really secret password. If you don't tell anybody, I'll tell you what it is. But you gotta promise not to tell anyone, because I use this password on everything. It's next. That's right, the password is next. We'll hit yes, but don't tell anybody. All right, so now it's going ahead and giving us a summary here of all our installation settings. So I'm going to go ahead and hit install, and it's asking me to confirm. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit install. Yep, everything looks good. So yes, onward and upward. Okay, now the install is beginning. So I'm going to go ahead, nothing much more to do. It was easy peasy, just like that. Not much different than using a Calamares installer. So I'm just going to go ahead and pause this and then reboot after the install, and I'll meet you on the desktop. See you in a few minutes. Okay, it's all installed, so we're going to go ahead and boot in now, and hopefully we'll have a desktop. Okay, here we are inside our desktop. So it looks like OpenSuse installed okay, and it looks like your average Xfce desktop. So it looks like it all went in well. I'm just going to jump down here to the menu, and there's our whisker menu by default, and it looks like it's using the default icons, and I just noticed an about me in there. That's kind of nice. I don't think the Fedora had that. No kind of user settings. I think I'll just click on that real quick. Yeah, so you can set your all that there. So that's pretty nice right off the bat. Let's just open the terminal emulator real quick, and I'm just going to bring this down. And I don't think HTOP is installed by default on here, but let's just take a look anyway, just for fun. And it's not, so no big deal. Now in OpenSuse, they use the zipper package manager on the console. Of course, you have YAST for the GUI, but if you're going to do it in the console, instead of using like apt-get if you're in Ubuntu or Debian, or sudo pacman in Arch, they use zipper. So I'm just going to go sudo zipper in for install, htop. And then, of course, there's the standard message of great responsibility. I accept this mighty honor. Okay, now it's going ahead and refreshing the cache and updating on all that good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and hit Y for yes. All right, now we should have HTOP. Very cool. So it looks like we're running about 784 megs of RAM on this, and that's even with the welcome screen open. So not too shabby at all. I am totally good with that. And this is our welcome screen, by the way. I actually totally ignored that. But here we have our README and access to documentation, get software, Xfce help, contribute, and build OpenSuse. So the get software is kind of nice if you need to go out to the website and find something kind of specific. Maybe it's not showing up in your YAST, so you can click on that and here you go. So you got the search engine up here and you can find just about anything you need. So if you come across a library you need or something like that, you can get it right in here. Or if you just want to install an everyday package, you could actually do it from here too. Like say Inkscape. Inkscape with a C. Then you'll get hints for it right here. And what you would do is you just go up in here and you can hit view, and then it'll show you what it's for, what distros, and I believe this would be the newest version as well, 1.1. And here we would just hit the install link next to the OpenSuse Tumbleweed, and then we would just have it open with YAST. Of course, if you wanted to go the GUI route, it's actually better just to go into YAST anyways. Typically, I'm only gonna be out at this website if I need something that I can't really find, say in YAST or through the terminal. And so I've run into that situation before where I needed a certain library to make something run for some reason, or when I was programming, things like that. So there are special cases where you might need to go out there and refer to that to actually get somewhere. But since we did this, I'm just going to go ahead and let it install. And it's letting me know that it's going to make the following changes. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit next. And let's go with yes. And I'll type in my fake password. And now it's going to install just like that. So this is the YAST2 installer. So the YAST2 installer is equivalent to the Software Center in Ubuntu or or any package manager like that you're familiar with in your distro, like Pamac and Arch and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and finish, and then we should have our Inkscape in here under probably graphics. And there it is. Nice. Easy peasy. And so if I go ahead and launch that launched really quick. So this has a really snappy feel to it. I am liking that. And actually that's the older version, 1.02. Fascinating. I would think that would be newer. So maybe going through the website is really not the coolest way to go. I'm just going to jump back into Yast real quick, pop in Inkscape, and yes, it's showing 1.02. So typically if I was going to use this as a daily driver, I wouldn't be going with that version. I'd prefer to have 1.1 installed. So accidentally closed it there. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck these like that, and then hit accept down here. Then we'll just kind of let it uninstall real quick. And I don't know if I caused that to be 102 from being out at the website there, or if that's just what's default in the Yast, in the repository. So not really sure there, but I'm going to go ahead and finish that. And the first thing I typically do when I'm in OpenSuse is I like to go out to OpenSuse.org, actually OpenSuse-community.org. And when we get out here, you'll see one-click installers for multimedia codecs like MP3, DVD, DivX, MP4, and so forth. And here we have for KDE and Gnome codecs. For Xfce, we'd want to use our Gnome. By the way, if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, you'll want to install the drivers for that if it applies to your card. So I would definitely do that as well. That'll probably eliminate any kind of issues that you would have by running NVIDIA. So that's another thing. OpenSuse really has great support on the NVIDIA side available for you. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Gnome codecs, and I'm going to let it open with the Yast installer. And there's a couple reasons I'm installing this. One, I want to have all the multimedia codecs, of course. And the multimedia codecs typically come under a non-free license. So that's why a lot of distros won't throw them in there by default, because they want to avoid legal problems. So this is a good way to do it. And the other reason I want to install these is because it's going to add in the Pacman repository. And the Pacman repository has all kinds of great extras and really up-to-date stuff in it. And once the Pacman repository is installed, I bet if I do a search for Inkscape again, it's probably going to be the latest version, 1.1, because it'll come out of the Pacman repository, I believe. So I'm pretty sure that's what'll happen. I guess we'll find out. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue here, and we'll just go ahead and let that set up, and we're going to say trust, and trust again. You can trust me. And now we're getting a message here about eStreamer, and there's conflicts with existing version, and I'm going to choose option number 1, and the option number 1 is to install the codec from the Pacman vendor. And that's what I want to do. I want to switch these over to the Pacman vendor. I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then hit OK, try again. And then I'm going to do the same here. Select the Pacman vendor, hit OK. And once again, Pacman vendor, and then down here, same thing. Option number 1, Pacman vendor. We'll hit OK, try again. And now it's giving us a list of everything here that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. And then we're going to go ahead and continue with the automatic changes. And as you can see, the Pacman repository is up here now. So that's kind of added into the mix. And now that we got Pacman, this would make a lot more cooler stuff available to us. And I recommend this to be one of the first things you do after installing OpenSuse, is to have the Pacman repository on here. And since you most likely need codecs anyway, that's the easiest way to get it. Otherwise, you can Google for Pacman repository, and be sure to spell it with a K, P-A-C-K-M-A-N, and then OpenSuse. Put those 2 words in the Google search engine, and it'll take you right out to the website with easy instructions on how to get it in there. Now, it's showing that the following packages could not be installed: the DVD Author 07 and FFmpeg. Not a big deal. We'll just open our terminal here and pop those in manually. And that happens sometimes, probably because of a conflict that it couldn't resolve on its own. So again, not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and hit my up arrow key because I already did sudo zipper. Okay, maybe not. I'm going to type in sudo zipper in for install. or you can type it all the way out and just type install. And then we're going to install FFmpeg and DVD author 07. And I'm not sure if it'll let me do both of them at the same time. I might have to do one at a time. Oh, we'll see. Okay, it didn't find them at first, but then it looks like it kind of reverted to probably the Pacman repository or somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. And there you go. So we got those guys installed. So that takes care of that. I'm going to go ahead and hit finish. And there we go. And then to verify that our Pacman repository, I really like to make that the default. So I'm going to jump in here to yes software. Okay, and then once we're in software, if we go into configuration and repositories, and just tweak that over a little bit. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go up to our view tab here and then select repositories. And then here we can see all our different repositories and so forth. And here's our Pacman repository. So if I select that, you can see that we got this guy here. And then what we want to do is select switch system packages to the versions in this repository, which is the Pacman repository. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then I'm going to come down here and accept and continue. And now it's going to go ahead and switch everything and make sure that all the packages are updated with Pacman. And I think even if I left Inkscape installed and switched over to the Pacman repository, I think it might have updated the Inkscape as well. But I'm not totally sure about that. But anyway, there we go. Okay, so it added a couple extra packages in there to be consistent with the Pacman. I'm going to go ahead and finish, so that's all good. So now that we got our Pacman all up to date, if I go in here and yes software, it will now use the Pacman repository as its big default there. So if I type in Inkscape, we still got 102. So okay, I guess that's not really a Pacman thing, but not a huge deal. We'll just come back to that because I think I'll probably just get the Flatpak for that, I think. It looks like it's already installed still. So I guess it never really uninstalled before. I'm gonna go ahead and hit uncheck that and then hit accept, or maybe it did install. Okay, so I'm gonna just hit continue here. And then if we come back to our view, because this view is kind of cool, if we go to patterns, here you can see that if you want to install other graphical environments, you can do that right from here. We got our Gnome desktop, so if you decided I want a Gnome desktop, you can do that. Or you can install Cinnamon, LXDE, LXQt, the OpenSuse Way desktop. Now the OpenSuse Way, and then we got the Sway Tiling Wayland. Wow, that's kind of cool. Just gonna slide this over. So we got the Sway Tiling Wayland compositor and related tools. I think the Sway Tiling Wayland, if I remember right, is the Wayland version of i3. i3 is going to be converting over to Wayland. And I don't think they're going to be, kind of into the Xorg thing so much anymore. Or if they are, this is going to be the Wayland version. So I'm not sure if I'm totally straight on that story or not, but if I recall correctly, the Sway Tiling Wayland is the i3 version, is the Wayland version of i3. So that's kind of cool. How cool. And then we got Enlightenment, Mate Desktop, Deepen. Oh wow. And of course we got all these other extras in here, fonts and desktop functions. You can add in games, the KDE desktop of course, and then all these other cool things like you can put in a web server setup here, a KVM host server if you want to do virtualization. And speaking of virtualization, you can actually set up KVM and all that on here pretty easily. And actually an easy way to do that is just jump into the menu here, go into YAST, and all you'd have to do is select the YAST VM install, and then you simply choose your hypervisor, whether it's KVM server or Zen server. And then of course you would add in KVM tools or Zen tools, and this will kind of do all the hard work for you. So I just thought I'd throw that in there since we were kind of going that way anyway. Very cool. So yes, and then our micro OS versions. Very cool. So yeah, that's the YAST stuff. Excellent. And so I guess if I were going to install Inkscape on here, I guess I probably wouldn't go through the YAST way. I was sure that you could get 1.1 through YAST, so it may just be a matter of having to update maybe. So let me see if there's any updates available. I'll just type in sudo zipper up and let it look for stuff. And I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. Don't know if it really found all that much, but at least we can say we did it. Okay, I'm pretty sure that didn't really matter. So I guess if you want to, you know, for something like that, I would probably just go out to FlatHub and we would just pop in Inkscape there. Or you could actually do a snap. I think Snapper would be the way to go here too. But if you want to use Flatpak with OpenSuse, first of all, you want to go to the setup guide here. So we'll just jump out to that real quick and then select the OpenSuse icon. And then we'll just copy and paste this stuff into the terminal. So we'll just copy that and pop it into here and then just say yes to that. There we go. That installs the Flatpak, and then we should add the repository in here and then just paste that in. And the next step is to restart. So I'm going to just restart this real quick and I'll be right back in a snap of a finger. Okay, I'm back. So I've gone ahead and rebooted, and now I'm going to jump up here into Firefox and pick up where we left off. And if I remember right, the download link should just go open up here we'll go there. The download link should open up Yast when we hit it. So let's test it out. I'll just type in Inkscape here, pull it back up, hit install, and not asking for it. So let's just cancel that real quick. So what I got to do is just jump down here to the bottom. I always forget that's there. And in here we would just simply copy this Flatpak install and just paste that in our terminal and just type yes, yes, Y for yes, and then it should do its thing. Okay, and installing one by one here, and it's 7 of 7. That sounds like a Borg from Star Trek. 7 of 7. Okay, so that had completed the install. Let's see if it shows up over here in the menu. And that's probably the other version in there, 102. I think that's still installed. But one way to find out, it is the new version. Wow, cool. So excellent. I can tell already it's a new version just by the splash screen here. So that's excellent. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Then here it has our different templates, and I really like this feature. This is one of the cool things I really like in 1.1. So especially when I'm making like a thumbnail or something, I can just go in here to video and then just hit typically I make the thumbnails at 720, and so it already formats the page for me. So I really like that. I think that's really cool. That was a really great addition, I think, to the Inkscape. So yeah, big thumbs up for that. And just to verify, 1.1, so we're good. Nice. Okay, so that solves that. And I don't think that integrates into Yast. I'm pretty sure that's not going to open up Yast or integrate with it. I could be wrong, but from what I saw there, I don't think that's the case. However, if you really want something integrated, I think what you can do is you can install Gnome software, and you could probably do that either from Yast or the terminal. And if you install the Gnome software package manager, you could simply, I think it would probably integrate with that. And so if you ran the FlatHub steps, that plugin should probably go into that. So yeah. And regarding Inkscape, I'm not really sure why it has the older version there. That does puzzle me a little bit, because I know I'm running OpenSuse upstairs on my other computer, and I know, like, for example, OBS Studio will install the latest 27 version and so forth, but I don't really know why Inkscape is the exception there. But like I said, not a big deal. Nothing you can't FlatHub your way out of. And you may not be as fussy about the version. So yes, everyone's different. Okay. So, got past that. Let's just kind of see what else has got in here real quick. So we got our accessories, of course, which is pretty much our standard Xfce stuff. A catfish file search, nice. And then our greeter settings, if you want to change the greeter, which is the login screen when you boot up your computer. So you can pop in there and just kind of make it the way you want. Especially if you think the default one's too lame for you, that will do the trick. So, we have GIMP installed by default. That's pretty nice. I like that. We got a document scanner, a document viewer for PDF files and so forth. Then we have our LibreOffice Draw, which suggests that LibreOffice Suite is installed in here as well. Then we have our Ristretto image viewer and Shotwell. And Ristretto is a good image viewer, but you know, I really like Viewnior. So I think I'm going to install that real quick. And that should be available here right in the terminal. So I think I'm just going to pop that in there. One of my favorite picture viewers. So And the newest version allows for HEIC format, which is like the format that comes off of your iPhone. So I like that. And so that's definitely worth having. And I don't know how you really pronounce it, Viewnior or Viewnior. Most people would probably pronounce it. To me, it looks more natural as Viewnior, but that's just me. So I'll let that install, and it looks like it's installing pretty fast. Version 1.726, and that's the latest version. So that's really great. Glad to see that. So like I said, I think the Inkscape thing must be an anomaly. But I'm not going to dwell on it. But now that we got that added to our graphics internet, we have Firefox, a mail reader, Pigeon chat client there, Ramina, which is great for RDP and so forth. Thunderbird, Tiger, VNC, nice. Always good to have VNC there. Got transmission for our torrents and web browser. Wonder if that's different than Firefox. I guess I'll hit it. Firefox. So maybe that's just another shortcut to Firefox. Okay, that's cool. Can never have too many shortcuts. And then under multimedia, by default, we have a flash player, Parole media player, pulse audio volume control, and Pragha. Nice. And then we have our LibreOffice suite here for our office stuff. And we have an onboard dictionary, always handy. And then under settings, we got all the stuff that you would normally find in the control panel. Our keyboard settings, menu editor, light DM, and all that good stuff. And then we have our system settings. We got HTOP in there now, something I did earlier. Advanced networking, always great to have. Disk, task manager. So if you need to kill a task, that's one way. Or you can use the console and just type in pkill and then the application name or service name. Or you can use the service ID, app ID. Excellent. And there's our welcome screen. And then all the YAST utilities are right here, all kind of together, and that's pretty nice. You got your YAST alternatives, YAST itself, AppArmor, bootloader. So anything you want to configure any which way, you could get it through YAST or one of its derivatives here to kind of tweak it down. So I kind of like how they have that all segmented out like that. Samba server, so you can easily set up Samba. So yes, this is really nice. If you're somebody that knows enough to be dangerous, or if you know enough to be an expert, these are really handy tools. So there you go, our applications. And if I jump into our system settings real quick, you can see that they're all pretty much our standard Xfce settings. Like I was saying earlier, Fedora doesn't have the utility for mugshot. Usually, I think what I had to do in there was to download the Mate user, if I remember right, the utility. And that could be what this is. And that's how I kind of got a visual way of, managing users. So this is nice. So we can change our mugshot in here. You can select from a stock photo, or if you have your own, you can do that. And I think I'll go with the cat eye. Oh, or this guitar. Nice. I can relate to guitars. And that all looks good. So there we go. Easy way to change your avatar. And then, of course, appearance is where we have our styles. And let's see what Graybird is. Yeah, not too shabby. I kind of like that. I think I'll kind of switch that over. Then we have our icons here. And it looks like the OpenSuse Xfce by default, which isn't bad. Then there's Edweda, but I think I'll stick with the OpenSuse. Then we have our fonts and settings. So I like showing images on buttons. Some people might think that's, kind of like last decade or something, but I think it looks cool. So I think I'll do that. And of course, if you want to change your theming and so forth, you can go out to xfce-look.org and you can download any of those themes. And if you install the OCS-URL, I think is the utility, then you can actually install those directly from the web page. Otherwise, all you'd have to do is, like I said in the previous video, create a .themes folder in your home folder and just extract it to that, and it'll show up right in here. And you can do the same thing with icons and fonts, except you would just name your folder .icons and .fonts, and you're good to go. All right. And so there we have our screensaver settings, default apps, all this stuff. Yeah, pretty standard in your Xfce. Screensaver preferences. Usually when I pop in here, I just kind of turn off the screensaver so it doesn't hound me. Otherwise, I'll increase my minutes here to something a lot higher than 5 minutes, like maybe 45. And the other thing I usually do is go into my power manager here. And I typically turn this off. Yeah, I'm an energy hog. What can I say? Or I'll at the very least turn off this lock screen, because that's kind of annoying, I think. I don't like having to do that. Now, if I was in an environment where I needed a little more security, then yeah, I would leave that on, but otherwise not. And typically I'll turn this off too, so it doesn't blank on me. Otherwise, if I don't, I'll crank this time way up, like, you know, maybe 45 or an hour. And then that way it's not bothering me. Because a lot of times I'll walk away or I'll just kind of do something else for a few minutes and then my screen's black. And so I don't like to have to do all that stuff like move my mouse and wake it up and then have to sign back in and everything just because I took a breather. All right. So yeah, there's our preferences are pretty much standard here. And I guess if I was going to change something else, I would probably go down here to our taskbar on the bottom and right click, and under panel I would select panel preferences, and then I might make that row a little bit bigger. Part of me likes it that small, but another part of me doesn't. So I can just kind of tweak that up just a little bit, maybe like 31, 32. Yeah, that looks better. I kind of like that. And then under appearance, we can use our dark mode. So if I wouldn't have changed that to a darker theme, I think that was Graybird. You could use dark mode and have a nice dark menu and then a light background when you open up your Viewnior. And then items. On here we got all our different items, and I really like what they have in here by default. That's really nice. We got our notifications right here, our date, and then our network settings and all this stuff here. Power. And then your audio settings here, and you can open up your mixer there. And then over here, of course, we got our open windows that are open, and then our show desktop and our menu. I think I would change the show desktop though. I'd kind of rather just move that over to the other end. A couple of ways you can do that. You can either right click on it, click move, and then just drag it down there, which is one of the easiest ways if you don't have this open. Or inside the panel preferences, you can simply scroll up to where it shows show desktop, and then hit this arrow key and just arrow down until it's where you want it. And I want to have it all the way over to the far right, like right there. That's where I'm comfortable with it. So now I got show desktop right there in the lower right hand corner. So I'm liking that. And another thing I really love in Xfce is the weather app. I think the weather app is really cool. So I'm going to add that in. I'm going to hit add here, and it's not there. What? That's always in there. Oh well. Well, for some reason the weather app's not in here, so I'm going to go ahead and just grab it real quick. And I believe that would be called Xfce 4 weather plugin. So let me just try downloading that and see if we can get it. So I'll type in sudo zipper in for install Xfce 4 weather plugin and see what happens. And it found it. Cool. Glad to see that. So I'm going to hit Y and enter. Okay, retrieving. So that's a good sign that it's going to be there. Obviously. Okay, so now if I jump back on our preferences, it ought to show up. But I might have to relaunch the preferences actually. But I'm going to hit add and see if it's in there. Ah, there it is. Cool. So we'll hit weather update, add that baby in, and I'll close it. And now you can see it in the very lower right hand corner is a question mark. So I'm going to pop that over to the other side of this speaker, because I think that's a better location. I'll just go ahead and click on this and then just arrow up here until we get to the other side of our pulse audio, which is right there. Excellent. So now I'm just going to hit close, and then if I right click and select properties, it should automatically detect my location and load it in. And after that, I just go over to the scroll box, which is really cool. Like the scroll box, because now you can see down here we have a little cloud here with some drizzle. It's cloudy and drizzling, and it's about 60 some degrees. So yeah, can you believe it? And it's August. But we have Tropical Storm Fred that came up this way and bringing a lot of rain our way. So anyways, I want the temperature to show up there too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here under this scroll box, and then under this drop down, I'm going to click this and select temperature. So we're going to put the temperature in the scroll box, but it's the only thing I want in there. So it's not actually going to scroll since it's the only thing in there. Otherwise, we would be changing back and forth between the temperature and for example, wind direction or speed, the humidity, and all that other good stuff. But personally, I just prefer having the temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and click add, and now it's down in the scroll box and you can see it down here. So now we got clouds with 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's really, I love this app. It's probably one of the best weather widgets I've seen. I like it better than the KDE one, the Gnome widget, even the one in Mate. I like it better than all of those. It's really the best. I haven't seen anything to equal the Xfce weather widget. And when you hover over it, you get a 5-day forecast. How cool is that? I'm going to go ahead and close that. So now we got our weather widget, and that was pretty accurate on that temperature, 68 degrees. I'm good. Okay, so that covers the weather widget and all that other good stuff. I don't think I ever opened Viewnior since I was doing all this babbling. So here's our Viewnior, and I'm just going to go ahead and close Firefox real quick, and maybe our terminal and our welcome screen. Okay. So here by default, I like that they have all our side panel stuff here already loaded in. A lot of distros I get into and review don't have these in here by default, and I got to manually add them in. So I like that they're all in there, and easy access to my home folder, always a big plus. And I think I would like to maybe change the wallpaper too. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on the desktop and then select select desktop settings. And here we have an assortment of default wallpaper. Nothing that really blows me away, just the standard Xfce stuff, plus the default tumbleweed. So I'm just going to take a quick look and see if there's anything else. And no, not really seeing anything else. If I go to other, sometimes they put other folders in the user share wallpapers area. So let's just back up a little bit. And there's OpenSuse default. I'm just going to jump in there and contents, images, and I'm not sure what these guys are, so I'll just open that and see what's in there. What the heck? So we'll go to open and just more of this. So yeah, nothing really interesting in the way of wallpaper. So yeah, I can't give it a lot of scores for wallpaper, but on the same note, wallpaper is not really a big deal because it's easy peasy. Most people just go out and get their own wallpaper anyway. So yeah, nothing I would lose sleep over. No hair off my butt. However, I think it's kind of a nice touch when you get a variety of wallpapers preloaded in the background. So I would really like to see that happen there. But other than that, this distro is really solid and it's not in any way bloated. So I like that. I like the fact that I can get in here and I have my essentials in there, or at least what I consider essentials, and then I can just go ahead and add on from there. So they didn't overdo it, and I think that's a good thing. And we have our menu and our icons that we can display on the desktop, and those are kind of the things I'd like to have selected, and they already are by default. So very cool there. All right, and just another quick note. Here you can uncheck apply to all workspaces if you want to have a different wallpaper on another workspace. So if I uncheck this guy and I go to workspace number 2, and now I'm on another desktop, workspace 2, I need to open up desktop settings again. And then if I wanted this, maybe this wallpaper, that's kind of overwhelming. Okay, let's say this one. On desktop 2, I can leave this box unchecked and then it'll only apply to this desktop. So if I close out of here, then I go back to desktop 1, I got my other wallpaper. So that's how you can separate your wallpaper if you want different wallpapers on different desktops. So there you have it. Excellent. So I think that's going to cover it for this review. And I gotta tell you, OpenSuse is probably one of my overall favorites. And the reason for that is because it is, especially the tumbleweed. The tumbleweed is up to date. I kind of like things that are cutting edge. For the most part, except for Inkscape there, it's bleeding edge. Even has the latest kernel, which I believe is 5.13 something. Actually, they just updated to 5.14, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that in here pretty fast. That's one thing I really like about tumbleweed is that you got cutting edgeness, yet you don't have to update every single day. So it's not ridiculous, and it's also very stable. You got the power of SUSE behind you, a big company with a lot of developers. Some people don't like the big companies, but I think when it comes to stability and polish and so forth, that's a good thing, especially when it comes to Linux and the quality that SUSE gives and what you get in OpenSuse. It's always been a rock solid system. In fact, I remember hearing about somebody that had an old computer with OpenSuse on it, and it was like 3 or 4 years old, and he fired it up and let the updates run, and it picked right up where it left off and didn't even have a hiccup. So to me, that's pretty darn impressive if you can do that. And like I said at the beginning of the video, the OpenSuse KDE I think gives you one of the best KDE experiences of the distros out there. And there's a lot of good distros out there with great KDE experiences, but I really haven't seen one match what you get with OpenSuse and KDE together. It is really a great combination. KDE, everything just works in it, and they stay up to date and cutting edge in Tumbleweed. However, if you need that stability, that hyper stability, because I never have hiccups in Tumbleweed really. However, if you're in a situation where you're running mission critical stuff and you need absolute stability, and maybe you run Ubuntu LTS but you want to change a flavor for whatever reason, then OpenSuse Leap is going to be a great solution. And that's something I would recommend. You got older hardware, you don't want the bleeding edge stuff and the bleeding edge kernel and all that other stuff. So if all that doesn't work for you, Leap is the way to go. And I don't recall off the top of my head the most recent version of Leap. I think it's probably like 15.4 maybe, give or take a few dots here and there. So anyway, yeah, overall I gotta give this a big thumbs up. Yeah, I snuck in a double there, because if I was going to run Xfce as a daily driver and I needed something super dependable and really didn't want to take chances on getting updates that might mess me up, this is a super solution. Xfce is running very few resources, so it's a nice alternative to Gnome and KDE. If you still want to have the OpenSuse experience, then Xfce is a no-brainer. So that's a tough act to follow, Xfce with SUSE. And it's very snappy. It's already got everything in by default that I would want. The only thing I really had to tweak was the Inkscape, which is not a big deal. And Inkscape really, I think, is an anomaly here with SUSE in the repositories. There must be a reason for it. So I would recommend, yeah, just kind of going with a Flatpak there on the Inkscape if you need the 1.1. Or personally, I like the latest. So yeah, easy solution, not a big deal. And I like running Flatpaks anyway, so there's a lot of situations where I run Flatpaks and app images, because I typically run my home folder on a separate partition, and I kind of like my apps and things over on that other partition. And that way, if somehow I hosed everything and I just couldn't bring it back from backup or whatever, and I needed to reinstall, I just install on the other partition, and my apps are largely untouched except for, you know, a few miscellaneous. But it really makes restoring things back to normal very headache free. So there you have it. I hope this video was helpful. I hope this review brought a bit of enlightenment your way. And if so, don't forget to smash that thumbs up button and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.